Joining us now from Portland is attorney Bruce McCain, a former captain with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. Bruce, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chris.
Let me ask you this. 2 new searches this weekend. So what is behind these searches? What are they looking for?
Well, again, we should not confuse these weekend searches with the ones that were happening 9 weeks ago. The initial search, of course, was a massive search and rescue looking for a presumably lost and alive 7-year-old boy. This is a different type of search. This is going to be a forensic search for physical evidence of criminal activity. One of the clues, of course, is going to be the spacing of the searchers themselves, what they're looking for, and what we just heard in that last report is that it does look like the grand jury process is starting to squeeze some critical information out of people that may have been reluctant to tell investigators without the power of a subpoena.
Is that the reason why this friend, Dee Spicer, was able to come forward now with these tips at this time, the grand jury process?
Well, as we talked about before, Chris, on this very program, Dee Spicer was not reportedly very cooperative with the investigators. But when you put somebody under oath in a grand jury and a penalty of perjury, and perhaps even with the threat of additional prosecution for their own criminal conduct, that tends to squeeze information out. So it looks like Dee's opening up. And again, these investigators, this is not a search and rescue. This is a forensic search for criminal evidence, more than likely something very specific that Dee told them about. And it could even very well be one of these untraceable cell phones that they're trying to find.
If it is a cell phone that they are in fact looking for, how could that help tie Terry to this case?
Well, Chris, one of the biggest problems we've talked about before is just trying to make a connection between Terry Horman's involvement and this idea that Kyron's being stashed by an unknown third party. If they can find these phones and use the great forensics that they have now to try to find out who Terry Horman was talking to immediately after June 4th or thereabouts, that might give them a tip as to where Kyron actually may be today.
Mr. McCain, I know they have this tip line that is active each and every day. How many tips are they getting still to this day, 2 months after the fact? And is it proving useful?
Well, again, they're reportedly getting up to 10 an hour. And the problem, of course, is that there's so many tips coming in that they have to be vetted and screened. And one of the problems actually they're having here is that some callers are reporting that they're not getting any feedback back from the tip line. So if they can work out that problem to encourage people to keep calling and let them understand, you may not get a physical phone call by a detective, but your tip is still very, very important to the case.
Kind of on a down note here, but the little boy's been missing now for like I said, over 2 months. How likely is it that a person is found alive after having been missing for so long?
Well, again, Chris, this is the big mystery here. I know Mrs. Young, the biological mother, still thinks that he's stashed, but the problem is that presumes that he's being kept alive, fed, put to bed every night by some third-person accomplice, and we have simply not been able to make a connection between Terry Horman and who that mystery silhouette with the question mark is. So again, unless they can find some connection between Terry Horman and this third party, again, they may be actually looking for something that we don't want to find up there this week.
All right. Mr. McCain, thank you so much for taking the time this morning.
You're welcome, Chris.
All right.